Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We're glad you are here, and just by showing up, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to present two of the most fascinating speakers in the history of this platform. One thing they share in common is an undying commitment to activism and for helping level the playing field for all people in the music industry by fighting for equality and human rights for all of us. And this includes helping people build sustainable careers and getting properly paid for their work. Trust me, I promise you will leave here today smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I'm a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones, and ask questions of our speakers. And also, this is very important. Please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors for without their support, we could not continue to do this for free. Special thanks to MedJet, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Tennessee Brew Works, and my favorite industry podcast, Unlimited Supply. So let's get down to business. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Willie Prophet Stiggers. He is a lifelong activist and co-founder, CEO, and president of BMAC. Under his leadership, BMAC has emerged as the most influential organization dedicated to holding the music industry accountable while building new pipelines of access and opportunity for the next generation of music professionals and artists. A driving force for economic justice in both music and communities, Prophet has been recognized among Billboard's power players for multiple consecutive years, earning accolades from the Associated Press, the New York Times, and other outlets. In 2024 alone, he was honored with the Charlie Pride Celebration of Inclusion Award presented by Amazon Studios, Amazon Music, and the Academy of Country Music. Recognized by the National Action Network for his lifelong activism and commitment to youth, received the CSAC Visionary Award for advancing equity in the industry, and was awarded the Songwriters of North America Warrior Award for championing songwriters and artist rights. In 2025, Prophet was named to the Billboard Power 100 list and recognized by Spin Magazine as one of 25 most influential people in music, as well as named to the Billboard R&B Hip Hop Power Players list. Beyond advocacy, he's also served on the board of the Neil Lasher Music Fund and on the board of Lifebeat, an initiative of the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Fund, and on the board of Hip Hop Museum and executive producer of the annual BMAC Gala for the last 4 years, curating one of the most interesting, most impactful gatherings in the entire industry. Welcome, Prophet. It is an honor to have you with us today, brother.
Thank you, John. That was a pretty great intro there. Appreciate it.
Well, sit tight and wait till you hear about your friend here.
Oh man, the real rock star, the real smartest person in the room.
Listen, I have been coveting Dina LaPolt as a guest on this platform for 5 years. And let me tell you about Dina. She is the founder and owner of LaPolt Law PC, one of the entertainment industry's most influential law firms, and the only firm of its stature solely owned by a female attorney. Based in LA, she represents artists, executives, and creatives across music, film, television, and fashion. A relentless advocate for creators' rights, she co-founded Songwriters of North America and helped secure passage of the Music Modernization Act in 2018. After learning that prosecutors were using artists' lyrics and other creative works as evidence in criminal proceedings, a practice that disproportionately targets Black rap artists, she became a leading voice in the movement to protect artistic expression. Through her work with the Executive Leadership Council of the Black Music Action Coalition, where she helps lead advocacy efforts, Dina helped passage of California's Decriminalizing Artistic Expression Act. Now, along with BMAC and SONA in partnership with Free Our Art Coalition, they have helped advance similar protections in Louisiana, Maryland, culminating in Maryland's Protecting Artists' Creative Expression PACE Act. As a
That's
member
right.
of the Human Artistry Campaign, Dina works to safeguard creators in the age of artificial intelligence. She's a leading advocate for bipartisan No Fakes Act, which just passed today. We'll talk about that in a minute. Federal legislation protecting an individual's voice and likeness against unauthorized AI generated replicas and deepfakes. Dina is a Billboard Women in Music Hall of Fame inductee, a Billboard Executive of the Year, a perennial Billboard Power 100 honoree, and the author of Street Smart, Succeeding in a Man's World. She also happens to be just one badass MFer, and I could not be more honored to have her showcased here today. Take it away, guys.
Oh, that's a great intro. Thanks,
Oh
Prophet.
man, especially that last part.
Oh, anyway. So, Prophet, God, you
Well,
are
well,
like,
well, 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 listen, before we do anything, we must start off by saying happy birthday, Dina.
oh,
And may the Creator continue to bless you with many, many more. I pray that this year brings you nothing but great health, nothing but continued purpose, nothing but love and prosperity. And I pray that you continue to be inspired so that you can continue to inspire everybody that comes in contact with you. We love you. We appreciate you. And I personally thank my God for you. Happy birthday,
oh,
Dina.
thank you, Prophet. I can't believe I'm 60, you know?
Listen,
60.
man. I mean, listen, the 60's the new 30. I'll tell you that right now.
You know, it's like so interesting because growing up with my mom, like she always used to tell people, like, I just want my kids to be happy and healthy. And I never knew what she was talking about until I
Mm,
did.
how
Because I
about
just
that?
want, we just want our kids to be happy and healthy, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
mean, for you to have a birthday present of the No Fakes Act being moved through like this morning, I mean, that just a testament to your purpose
mm,
and what you're here to do. And, and so to receive this gift, it was great to share that moment this morning, watching it as we also celebrate your birthday. But let's get
yeah.
into it. Let's get into
Let's
it.
get into it.
Where,
Like, you
where,
know
where do
what?
we start?
Well, I'm gonna get into it like you coming into my life because I
Mm,
literally like have not met my male counterpart.
mm,
Ever. You are my person, Prophet. Like God
mm.
brought us together, you know, from a very early age. Like when I see both of our histories, I'm like, how? I mean, I met you in 2020, but I feel like you and I have been connected for generations, past lives, you know,
Right,
past lives.
right.
I was told by this clairkinetic that I was this clairvoyant that I was an abolitionist in a past life, you know, and I
Okay.
go, oh, I totally can. I know I was, you know, and before that, I'm sure I was a whole bunch of other things. But you coming into my life, I mean, that you were an activist like I was.
Yes.
13 years old, you're an activist. And I want to talk about that. Like you,
Okay.
you know, in the Bronx growing up, tell me that story, okay? With your
Um,
mom
yeah, it was.
advocating for you.
Yeah, it definitely was around 13 years old. I lived at the time in a housing project in the South Bronx called Melrose Projects. And if anybody know anything about New York housing projects, some projects had actual precincts, actual police precincts built into the structures, you know.
Mm,
So at the bottom or the basement of one of the buildings was the precinct, was the housing cops, and they were harassing me and my friends and got physical with one of my friends. We were playing basketball, coming from playing basketball. And he threw him to the floor. And I remember stepping up and was like trying to advocate for him. And at the time I had fractured my clavicle, so I still had on a brace, a sort of brace. And he grabs the brace and throws me to the floor. I just remember, feeling humiliated and really defenseless, if you will. And I went home to my mom and told what happened, and she was livid. You know, my mom, may God rest her soul, she passed at 39 years old, but she was a
mm,
force, a real force of nature, a force to be reckoned with. and she didn't play about her babies, you know. And
Mm.
so she called everybody. She called the mayor. She called the governor. I'm sure she had a couple calls into the president. She called the Bloods, the Crips. I mean, the Latin Kings. I mean, she went off. And we wound up having a rally in my projects for what happened. And Reverend Al Sharpton participated. And that
Mm.
sort of birthed my activism at that moment and kind of been on that track ever since.
You and I, 13 must be the magical number, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, because when I was 13, they fired our guidance counselor when I was in middle school, and I went down to the principal's office to ask why, because he was our person, and I was dismissed. Like, go back to, this is adult stuff. Anyway, when I got off the bus, I'm crying. And my mother's like, "What are you going to do about it?" And I was like, "Huh?" She's like, "What are you going to do about it?"
Mm,
And that night, my mother helping me make protest signs,
mm,
you know, and then driving me to school the next day. And, we went to, you remember when you used to, when we had to Xerox something, you would write it on that paper and you had to go get it,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Xerox, you had to lift up the
Yeah,
paper and go.
yeah, yeah,
So we made, protest 10 a.m., meet in the parking lot. And I told all my friends, and this is back in the 70s. I mean, there's no text messaging or anything like that. And my mom had a bullhorn, and I hid it in the bushes outside the school. And we all walked out of that school. The entire middle school walked out. And the superintendent calls my mother and says, "Can you get your daughter to get everybody back in the school?" She said, "Why are you calling me for? Dina's in charge. Go call Dina." Click. And
yeah,
that born my activism. I still have those letters to this day with the
yeah.
superintendent writing to me, negotiating with me. I was 13, you
That's
know?
crazy. When you talk about parallel tracks, Dina, that's really crazy. A little bit further down my life, in high school, I went to high school with Alicia Keys and Worry Rice and Russell Jones, who are, music execs. But everybody know Alicia Keys, huge star. And I started an organization called Student Power Movement.
Mm,
And it was because I didn't like the way things was going on in the school. Some of the teachers I thought had a bias that needed to be addressed. There were budget cuts happening at the CUNY level that I thought we need to
mm,
be focused on as we about to go into college, coming out of high school. So we led a protest, and that was the first time Alicia ever really, was activated in that way. And then fast forward, I wound up helping her connect with Lee Blake to start Keep a Child Alive, an organization that she went on to really raise, hundreds of millions of dollars for kids with AIDS in Africa. But to your point, in high school is where I also began to
mm,
nurture my ability to not just motivate but to organize, and I think that's the thing that makes the work that we do now
right.
so impactful, is because movement building is a skill set.
It is a skill
It's
set.
not something that you could just fall into. And why I love our relationship is, even at this stage of my life, I'm still a student of the movement, and
Mm,
you help me understand two things. One, the 1619 Project, by the way, if you haven't read that book, everyone, please read this book.
incredible.
Do you remember the conversations in 2019 and going into 2020 around critical race theory and all of
Oh,
those things? That stemmed from the power of this book called the 1619 Project. But in that book, what struck me the most is that Nicole Hannah Jones does an incredible job at helping you understand that every fucked up thing done in this country was backed by legislation.
100%.
Like, it was legislation that backed this crap, this crap. So if we're not addressing legislation, if we're not addressing political power, or at least looking to obtain it, we're not going to ever move the needle. And
Mm,
so that was like I was on fire. I listened to the audio, and then I was on fire with this. Like, damn, this is really deep. Then Dina, you and I meet, and you really helped me understand how we as an organization have to utilize the power of our networks, the power of the artist community, community, the power of the creative community as a whole to impact legislation. And
100%.
I didn't really know how it worked, right? And so when we started to work on the Rap Act,
Yeah.
and then I'm down there, we in DC, we everywhere, and I realized that there's only 530 people, give or take my number off by five maybe, but who sign the laws for all 300 million Americans. And I
Wow.
said, well, damn, if Dina was able to have a role in getting the Music Modernization Act law that now forever at least, help put up some guardrails and create some sort of system of accountability and protection for creatives, let's launch this legislation around the Rat Pack. And for
Yeah.
us to get the amount of energy and support around that federal bill and then have it trickle down to the state bills, and for Governor Newsom to be the first one to sign it, now in the state of California, in the state of Louisiana, in the state of Maryland, salute to Governor West fucking Moore.
Mm.
For
Yes, Wes
him
Moore.
to be able to now, it's illegal to just use lyrics to prosecute artists. It's incredible to see how we are connecting these dots. But it was a 1619 project to help me understand that everything was backed by legislation, but then it was Dina LaPolt to help me understand how to actually put that in motion and get the shit done.
Well, let me tell you something. Like being involved with BMAC, the Black Music Action Coalition, and being on the executive leadership committee as you lead that organization gives me so much personal gratification. Like it's incredible, and I love that we connected in that way, because it is really incredible. Like when I first, early on growing up, I mean, my mother, as you know, was an activist and she was a community leader and she was involved, like teaching us about the movement, the Black Panther Party. I mean, so crazy that my mother was a fundraiser for the Black Panther Party in 1969 when they were arrested and charged with all this bullshit felony counts. And my mother helped raise the bail for Afeni Shakur in 1969. And years later, when I started representing the Tupac estate and the 6 degrees of separation and the full circle, and when I brought my mother to Afeni to finally, they met all those years later before they passed away. And Prophet, right now, they're in heaven with your mother, and they're looking down on us right now with a big ass smile. But I could tell you, learning about knowing about policy, growing up in that environment and knowing that was one thing. But then when I realized becoming a lawyer, when a lot of my colleagues were involved in copyright legislation, and one prominent lawyer, Joel Katz, may he also rest in peace, says to me, Dina, you should be involved in policy for copyright reform because these are the same people that vote on women's rights and that vote on all kinds of laws that protect people of color and protects children and protect the disabled. And it was kind of like it clicked in my mind. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know it, and then I knew it. So when I started volunteering for these copyright committees, like the Recording Artists Coalition in the late '90s, early 2000s, and got to be have these relationships. I mean, you could watch this stuff in real time. And when we're talking about the Restoring Artistic Protection Act, the RAP Act, and shout out to Congressman Hank Johnson of Atlanta, okay, Georgia, who basically helped us, spearhead this movement.
Absolutely.
But Shirley Halperin, before she was running
Yes.
Rolling Stone, calls me up in December 2020 and she says, do you know about this law in Maryland? This is a racist law. Did you know about this? I said, what are you talking about? And she sends me this decision from the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in the land in Maryland. They don't have a Supreme Court. The Court of Appeals is the highest court in the land. And I read it, and they had put this guy in jail, Montague, for this rapper that was rapping. They used his lyrics against him and put him in prison. And there was no other evidence of this. And she goes, Dina, would you write an op-ed about this? And I wrote this op-ed that came out right after Profit. I joined your executive leadership committee in BMAC. And I
Yeah.
wrote this op-ed in January 2021. And everybody from across the country reached out to me. Civil rights attorneys, all kinds of people, academics, all these people reached out to me to say, Dina, this has been happening for years. I mean, academics reached out saying they had social science research that says this is only happening to black men. And there's all these black men sitting in prison right now in America that's lyrics were used against them as evidence of guilt. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I call you on the phone and you're like, this is bullshit. And we start our RAP legislative working group.
Absolutely.
And that's our email blockchain. And we have, Kevin Cassini in Connecticut and, all these huge people that are involved in our mission. And
Yes.
that's when our movement started taking off with our protecting creative expression Profit. Like you and I spearheading this in the beginning,
But that's what I mean by movement building is a different skill set because, our industry and even our society as a whole, we get so used to the conversation and
Mm,
the continuance of the conversation over and over again, the same. But where is the fucking action? Where is the action? Where's the plan to fix it? What is the strategy around correcting the wrongs?
right,
And how are we going to execute that? And I think that's what makes our organizations effective because we understand that it's not just about talking about the issues, right? We've done that for
right,
450 years. This thing's about moving past that to places of
correct.
action to ensure, the craziest thing, Dina? I used to grow up in the movement with every activist you can, from Reverend Jackson to everybody you can,
Yep.
you can think of. And I used to say to myself, what would I have done if I lived in the 60s or in the
Mm,
30s or in 1700 or in 1619? What
mm,
what would I have been doing? Who would I have been?
mm.
But in 2026, we don't have to ask that question because the shit is on right now.
It's
It's
on
happening right now.
right
We are
now.
in the battles that people will look at 20 years from now and ask, what did we
Mm,
do?
that's
With
right,
more resources, with the ability to communicate faster,
right.
with more knowledge, more access to the information, what are we prepared to do? And I think
What?
you and I hold ourselves at that at that we hold ourselves accountable in that way as leaders.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and no disrespect to black leadership, but for me, I have watched our people sometimes put more value in the coach of their favorite sports team than they
Mm,
do in leadership. So if
mm,
that team don't win, you want the coach gone, you want the player gone. But when it comes to black leadership, sometimes we allow folks to sit in seats of leadership without
mm,
putting up the W's. So for
mm.
me, if BMAC can't be a solution, if we don't have anything to offer outside of more conversation about the things that's wrong, we don't need to be here. We don't
Yeah.
need more of that. Folks need a clear pathway to how do we fix some of this shit. So things like legislation and a clear way. That's why the moment we started, it was so infectious and so many groups joined. The Record Academy, SAG-AFTRA, so many. Everyone joined because it was like, okay, this is what we're looking for. Give us a roadmap to some solutions so we can get behind it and make some things happen.
That's right. Asking what can we do to make this happen? Like
Right.
specifically when we're talking about, our Restoring Artistic Protection Act and recently getting it passed in Maryland, which was a full circle moment for us,
Yes.
Prophet, because
Yes.
that's when you and I were first educated about this discriminatory practice, you
Absolutely.
know? And when we flew to Maryland for that signing of that bill with Governor Wes Moore, I mean, it was a 360 moment for us. And we looked at each other and we knew we have a
Yeah.
lot of work to do. We have a
Yeah.
lot of work to do. I mean, growing up here in America, okay, we grow up here and we saw all these constructs getting put together, put in place as we're growing up, as the movement, as we're marching, as we're protesting, as we're doing all these things. And now we're watching it all fall apart. What are we doing to make this work? And even today, like, with the No Fakes Act passing the Senate Judiciary, I mean, we know there was some senators that weren't really on board with it, and what can we do about that? Let's get our artists, the artists that are in the states of those senators, and have them reach out to those senators and say, this is important to everyday Americans, that we need a federal right of voice and likeness. There are so many deep fakes out there, okay, of people saying things. I mean, it's happening to everybody, not just recording artists, but doctors,
Absolutely.
prominent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is going to change the landscape.
Down
That
to children getting calls from who they think are their parents. I
right,
mean, this thing is so beyond just entertainment. But the
right,
power of the entertainment community, the influence of
right.
the entertainment community
That's
is
right.
what's leading this legislation that's going to protect everyone. That's going to
That's
protect
right.
the average human being, the everyday
That's right.
human being. But
That's
that's
right.
our role. But that's also the role of the music business, the role of artists. Nina Simone said the artist's job is to reflect the
Mm,
times. And we are living in the times right now where
mm,
we have to be active and actively
absolutely.
working on the solutions. And not just the rap act and not just no fakes. I mean, all the stuff that we're doing is extremely important. The mere fact that 2020, for me, the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud
Mm,
Arbery, when the music industry paused, what I knew with my activist background
mm,
is that when the news cycle shifts, so will the energy, so will
that's
the
right.
focus, so will
That's
the
right.
commitments. So if
That's
there
right.
wasn't an engine that was going to be created to hold these people accountable to those pledges that they were making,
Right.
man, this would just be a glimpse. And next thing you know, we on to something else that goes viral.
That's right. That's
But we
right.
have been able, and no, we haven't gotten all of the things done that we want. There's less black execs working in the music industry today than there
Right.
were in 2019. There are things that has to change still for sure. But what is for sure is that there's an organization that's on the ground, on the front line, that's
Mm,
relentless. One of the beautiful things about the role in the seat that I sit in, Dina, is that I don't have artists that I manage to these labels. I don't
right.
have these certain clients. So I have no, there's nothing over my head.
Right.
I can
Right.
go full throttle with the power of such a tremendous board and a tremendous ELC, represent about 65% of the highest grossing artists from Harry Styles to Cardi B. So the
Mm-hmm.
power of that and my ability to stand in front of that and
Mm,
utilize that collective bargaining power to speak truth to power unapologetically.
mm,
This industry needs it, it feels it, and they can act like they don't, but they know this shit is real when
that's
BMAC
right.
come through.
And this is why I also love you, and why you and I are kindred souls. Because, my firm was founded, when I founded my firm in 2001, my first thing was, I'm not going to have any conflicts of interest. Okay? Like, I'm not going to represent record companies, I'm not going to represent publishers, I'm not going to represent streaming services, I'm not going to represent anybody that has an adverse agreement with talent, with artists, songwriters, with actors. I'm not going to represent them. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you know what? It's like being a little pregnant. You can't be a little pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. Okay.
That's
Like, I'm
right.
an alcoholic and I'm in recovery 28 years. Okay. So I tell people and they go, well, you want to have a sip of this? I go, I can't drink that shit. I'm an alcoholic. Okay. It's like, it's black or white for me. There's no gray area. So it's
Mm,
like, for me, I know what side I'm on all the time.
that's right.
All the time. So when
That's
you and
right.
I met, okay, and it's like, well, here's what we're going to do. Like, we've had some really, really tough conversations with the labels. Tough,
Absolutely.
tough conversations. And Prophet, the one thing I even want to point out is, even as performative of something like the term master recording. I mean, I remember working with Afeni and flying down to Lumberton when she moved to Lumberton to have her sign the producer agreements for her son's release of his posthumous music. And her, every time she would see the word master recording, she would say that racist fucking term. And she educated me and said, Dina, this term, master recording, was based in racism. And she explained to me back in the 60s and 70s when they would make these sound recordings, the analog tapes, and when the chairman of
Yeah.
the record department wanted a copy of the tape. He would say, "Send me up a slave recording." And then when I was in the vault and I saw Tupac's unreleased recordings, analog
Yep.
reels, unreleased recordings, it said slave copy, master copy. I go, "Oh my God."
Right.
Like
That's
even
right.
and so when
That's
you
right.
and I,
That's right.
we said one of the things we got to call the labels. We got to demand that they ban the word
Yeah.
master recording from their agreements. Okay, remember
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
And they took it out of their agreements. And then their
Yes.
A2IM that represents all the independent labels. Richard Burgess, shout out to Richard
Hmm.
Burgess, the past chairman of the A2IM. He says, "You know what, Dina? They can't be members of the A2IM if they have the term master recording in their recording agreement."
That's
You
right.
know, we made that a thing.
Absolutely.
Just because we said this, we have to start the movement, make people aware of what we are doing, and
And I,
who we're doing.
and I think that is really the narrative, the tone, the direction that has been missing for some time now. Because as we see with the work we do, people are ready.
Yeah,
People are willing, and people want change. It is how we get there. What are
that's
the steps? And I think we have, through great counsel, great advice from the executive leadership council and the board, been able to create, these moments where we're actually able to put some W's up. And that
yeah,
matters.
yeah,
And that matters. It's not just conversation, it's not just fluff. It's
yeah.
real impact that's being made, you know?
Well, the wins, like you always say, Dina, the wins. We need
The
to focus
wins.
on the wins. And when you and I were in Maryland with Governor Westmore, and he was going through all the things that he has gotten accomplished in the
Straight up.
state of Maryland since he has been the governor, one win after another. Okay, it's like
Yeah.
this is the stuff that gives me energy. And
Yes.
it's funny because everybody's like, "What are you? Let's do something for your birthday. Da 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 da. You're gonna be 60. Da da da." It's like, bitch, I don't. What do I want to celebrate for my birthday? We got to do something. We got work to do. What the fuck are we gonna celebrate?
We got
And
work
you
to
know
do.
what? When this came about, and Tom Truett's like, "Dina, please, like, be on a and I said, "You know what? Now I know what I want to do on my birthday. I want to be on that podcast with, Tom Truitt, smartest person in the room with profit. And I
Yeah.
want to talk about social justice, activism, starting movements, the power of the people, how we
Yeah.
can change, truth to power.
That's
That
right.
is what I want to do on my birthday. This is what we're doing on my
I
birthday.
mean, look at God, look at God. And,
And
and,
then
and
what
then to be,
happened this morning?
I'm about to say, being able to jump on this call an hour after such a huge win around the No Fakes Act, that how appropriate, But I mean, but that's the beauty of it. Even if we take the situation that was going on with country music, and
Mm,
this idea that it belongs to one group, right?
that's
And if you didn't play by a certain set of rules, then the point of entry was almost impossible.
right.
BMAC released a report called Three Chords and the Actual Truth, the Manufactured Myth of Country Music in White America.
Mm,
And we chronicle, and it's on our website. So if you guys go to
yeah.
bmac.org, you can click it, you can read it. It's a 42-page report. It's an easy read, powerful read. And we literally chronicle the racism in country from the inception of the genre all the way up to present day. But again, we didn't just drop a report. We then challenged Music Row to do something about it.
Mm,
And salute to the Academy of Country Music. They stepped up and we created the On Ramp program. And we gave young Black aspiring artists and
mm,
aspiring executives an opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity to
mm,
break into the country music space by giving them financial support on a monthly basis, unprecedented mentorship and access, right? Forget just telling me, oh, we have to do something about it. Do some shit. Do something that's actually going to move the needle forward. And I think that's
that's
why people come out to the gala the way they do and they respect the work that we do. Although we haven't got everything that we are fighting for and will continue to fight for, we have created enough urgency around the issues of social and racial justice within the industry where people had to respond. You remember Juan, is it Juan Winter, the old chair of the Rock and
Oh,
Roll
yeah,
Hall of
yeah.
Fame?
Yeah.
he
Uh-huh.
released he released a book and said that the black
Yep.
people and women weren't smart enough to be in it. And
Yep.
immediately I jump on a call with John Sykes. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, what is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame prepared to do about this? All right,
Come
I
on.
get it. And the vision that John Sykes had for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a beautiful vision, an inclusive
Beautiful
vision.
vision.
But now, how do we take that and apply it and ensure that people really have the access? And so we
Absolutely.
created a guaranteed income program, the BMAC Rock and Roll Hall of Fame guaranteed mentorship and internship program, where again, 20 young black aspiring artists, financial assistance, unprecedented mentorship, access that they normally denied. This is how you change the face of music, not just
Yeah.
fight to change what's happening on the with the existing structure, but ensuring and equipping the next generation with the
That's right.
knowledge and information and the access they need to win. Same thing with Live Nation. I sat down with Omar Alajawani and Colin Lewis when we were talking about how Live Nation want to show up with BMAC. Omar says, I want to see more brown, more black, and more women in the leadership role in live music space. So we
It.
created BMAC Live, a
That's it.
program where for 20, we bring 20 young people from across the country to LA in partnership with Live Nation School of Live, and we teach them everything they need to know about the live music space. Then they go back to their respective cities and receive a 4-month paid internship from Live Nation. We're going out on the road right now with the Usher and Chris Brown tour, the BMAC Live R&B edition. We're hiring 5 to 10 young people in each market to work the
Wow.
show and learn the show, right? So we're not just talking about it, we actually applying it. And
Doing
that's
it.
the power and the beauty of this movement that we have here.
Yes, it's incredible. And I love all the things that BMAC is doing. Like even tomorrow night in New York City for tonight and for
Yes.
Juneteenth, New York City, you're having Nicole Hannah Jones.
Nicole
That's
Hannah
just
Jones. We're gonna have a fire. We're doing two things. One, we have Nicole Hannah Jones, and we're gonna do it. She and I are gonna do a fireside around reclaiming patriotism. But it's a
oh,
part of BMAC's bigger America 250 initiative that we are doing in partnership with the Hoffland Foundation. The Hoffland Foundation, Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw, they it's their foundation, and their representatives approached us late last year about what kind of you know initiatives can we create that's inclusive and to ensure that this story of America 250 is told by not just one segment, but by all of the voices and all of the colors that have made up this country, and particularly the black cultural expressions. And so we launched a nationwide search. Thousands of people applied, and we found 5 incredible artists. So when you talk about the Nina Simone's, the Marvin Gaye's, and and those type of artists that were able to really motivate the people at the time to sort of give you a soundtrack of the freedom that you wanted to feel and experience. We found 5 artists that represent that today. So they're performing tonight in New
that's
York
incredible.
City, and this event is being sponsored by Billboard. And shout out to Monty Littman and Danielle Price, now president of
Danielle,
Uptown Records. They are
president,
they are our
president of
sponsors
Uptown
tonight.
Records.
That's right. They are our sponsors tonight. This is the second year that
Yep.
they allowed us to use their space here in New York for Juneteenth. Last year, we did the screening of the Harry Belafonte documentary called Following Harry. And this year, we're bringing in these 5 incredible artists along with Nicole Hannah Jones. And so, yeah, I mean, and Juneteenth as a whole, one of the things I want people to realize when they get in that room tonight is, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. The shit was over. But because
Shit
there was
was
no
over.
because there was no Instagram, the folks in Texas didn't get the memo,
They didn't get
right?
the memo.
So
Slavery
you
is
had
banned in the
two
U.S.
2 extra years of enslaved free labor taking place because these folks didn't want to let the shit go. So Juneteenth, even understanding what that holiday represents.
That's
This is
it.
also Black Music Month, right? You got to understand when we talk about policy and power. Remember,
That's
Jimmy
it.
Carter signed the bill to make music Black Music Month. It was Gamble and Huff and the Black Music association out in Philly that was lobbying for this to happen. Again, using music to influence policy. And
That's
also,
it.
this is Pride Month, so, this is an important time for us to really get focused and really recalibrate and get energized for the next 6 months and then the next 12 months, because we got a hell of a fight on our hands right now. And
We
our
got a
people
hell of a
and
fight.
history is watching. History is recording. And I'd be damned if my grandson, who is now 1 year old, is going to be able to
Mhm.
look back at this thing 20 years from now and know that my grandfather did his job, played his role, did not just sit on
That's
the
it.
sideline complaining about some shit, but actually did something to make it happen.
Well, listen, you and I have our mothers to thank for that.
You better
Because
believe it.
our mothers never sat around waiting
No,
for other people to do the work. They
no,
did the work.
that's right.
I remember very early age going on rallies with my mother, going on marches, going on protests, making protest signs, everything. I mean, I'm from New Paltz, New York. I mean, very progressive town, home of Sojourner Truth. The entire town is named after Sojourner Truth. But my mother, I tell everybody, my mother started the gay and lesbian movement in New Paltz, and they
Mm,
go, "Wait, what?" I go, "Yeah, 19 in the 1990s, they elected the mayor of my town. They elected a college student as mayor, Jason West. Okay, because my mother was like, you know what? The way that they're discriminating against gay people is horrific.
mm,
Gay people can't get married. And she knew then I was gay. And she went from like social justice activism to now gay and lesbian activism because her kid was gay. So, one of the things she's like, you know what? College students live in this town 9 months out of the year. They can vote if they're registered. So my mother started a whole initiative to get the State University New York College at New Paltz, all those students registered. She started the initiative in the town to get those kids
incredible.
registered. And then they
Incredible.
voted for a
Yeah.
21-year-old kid that became mayor and started marrying people in the town of New Paltz, even
Mm,
though the state government was saying, "You're going to be arrested if you keep doing this." And he kept doing it. And they arrested his ass. And it was all over TV. Okay? And there you go. Kick that shit off. And here I am, like, you know what? My mother's like, "Yeah, you're gay, but what are you doing now to fight
yeah.
for the rights?"
Yeah.
Okay? And it's like, you and I are so blessed to have grown up with mothers like that. Blessed, Prophet. And the same thing you just said about your grandkid, and your children. Like I tell my boys, when they leave for school in the morning, I say, who are you going to help today? And don't let anybody, you stick up for the underdog. If you see
Yeah.
someone getting bullied, you don't ignore that shit. You
Yeah.
walk up to that person that's bullying and you say, back off, okay?
Right.
And you're never going to get in trouble for me if you're bullying a bully, okay?
Because what we're talking about at the end of the day is that this is not a gimmick for us. This is not a
No,
hustle for us. It's not a job for us. This is in
that's
fact our life's work and mission and purpose. So it don't just stop. When the Zoom calls are over for BMAC. This is how I raise my children. It's the husband I am
it.
to my wife. Me and my wife been together for 30 years since high
Mm-hmm.
school, and she watched this whole. And I watched her evolve. She watched me evolve. But
Right.
this is, black love is something that's important to me. Showing the strength of black family
Mm.
is important to me. To counter some of the images that the media try and perpetuate. So I'm a type of husband I am for a reason, the type of father. So it goes beyond just what we're doing on the social justice side. It's about the lives that we're trying to live. Even you and your sobriety, and the fact that you can say I'm 28 years sober. You made a decision to live. And you brought me in to be part of the Neil Lasher Music Fund. And
That's
here it
right.
is, I'm sitting saying to myself, you know how many people who I watch die, because of addiction, because either they were embarrassed to go get the help or didn't even have the resources to get the help. And then you bring me to an organization that say we will pay for it. We will pay for the best of the best. And not just you, anybody in your family that's fighting with it. I'm
We'll
like,
pay
man,
for them
what
to go to
the hell?
recovery.
What the hell is going on? Where have these people been? And we've been able to march that message around,
Right.
and really begin to destigmatize the whole idea of treatment and help. And hopefully we're going to
A
do the same
hundred
work with
percent.
the city of Hope down in Atlanta. My goal is to do the same work there. It don't stop. It don't
It don't
stop. It's
stop.
all connected. And I pray. And one of the things I said about you earlier with your birthday is that I pray for you to continue to be inspired, because we have to stay inspired. And what inspires me are those wins. That's why I'm so committed to ensuring that is the litmus test for us, is our effectiveness to actually get the shit done and to see it happen,
Hundred
and to
percent.
see it happen. I mean, think about it. This BMAC as a whole started with a Zoom call with you and 20, 30 people. Who I knew maybe three people on that call. Sean Halliday called me. So Sean called some people, Damien called some people, and Jeff Azoff called some people. Just to talk about what happens after Blackout
Right.
Tuesday, you know?
Right.
And out of that grew this movement that has been
Right.
so effective. People can't believe BMAC
Effective.
is only 6.
Right. Only 6 years old, and we've done so much. So much. Yeah, Prophet, you froze. I want to go back to the Neil Lasher Music Fund, okay? Because that is another thing. Like you, when putting you on the board, changed the organization, okay? So Neil Lasher died, in 2020, one of the first executives in the music industry to die of COVID. He died nearly 40 years sober, and he had the reputation where he would drop everything to just help somebody that needed help in recovery, okay? He would drop anything to help an alcoholic. And one of the things that I realized growing up in my adult life is that, asking for help is so marginalized, or
Yeah,
so it's, I mean, it's so stigmatized in the community,
yeah,
and because of all the government using all these things against people of color all over
absolutely,
whole history of
absolutely,
America, so
sure,
it's like, why should anybody talk about their personal problems for fear that it's going to be used against them? This is the
right,
history of the United States. Oh, let me help
absolutely.
you. And meanwhile, they're like a subject for experiment.
Yeah, let me give you some blankets to keep you warm, and then you come out
Right.
with
What burns
smallpox
all.
and
That's
annihilate a
right.
group of people.
Right.
No,
Let
yeah,
me give
yeah,
you free gynecological help, and
yeah,
then come out and you're
yes,
never able to have kids.
no,
Like so
absolutely,
so here putting you on the Neil Lasher Music Fund board was incredible, and I love, like, every year Rolling Loud, perfect
yes,
example, okay? The biggest rap and hip hop festival in this country.
yeah,
And you have members of the Neil Lasher Music Fund in the
yes,
BMAC tent.
yeah.
Real life and you are talking to people, and they're
it,
talking to
it,
people.
it, it, we create a wellness room. I remember having that conversation with Todd and Harold. And Harold talked about back in the days during the festivals, there would be these wellness or these breakout rooms that if you was like,
Mm,
in AA or in A, you can go to these rooms and find your people and get the inspiration you
yeah,
need to support. And I'm like, damn, I have not seen or heard of none of that at these festivals. I remember going to
mm,
Tarek. Shout out to Tarek Sharif, who's the CEO of Rolling Loud, founder, and also part of BMAX Executive Leadership Council.
yeah.
And I said, listen, man, would you be cool with us like creating like a mocktail lounge in a space where we could just talk about, create a little bit of a balance here. There's a lot of weed smoking, there's a lot of liquor going on. What about a little bit of a balance?
Mm-hmm.
Tarek said, I absolutely love it. And so for the last 3 years, we have created these BMAC Neil Lasher wellness, operations,
Room.
and people come over, artists sit down, and you will be surprised that when you start talking about this topic, that everyone is connected to it. Everyone knows somebody who's dealing with it. And I
Yeah.
say this to everybody who's listening, because I know we almost at time. We are living in some critical times right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, history will record. And I know that we just dealt with the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And I know that we're dealing with federal attacks on diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
But what I also know is that we come from a lineage of people that had to see it before it was even there, that had to have the courage to fight for something that did not exist yet. An America that was promised but didn't show up. So Black America from day one have been fighting to push this country to live up to what they said on paper, as Dr. King has said.
Mm.
So if they had the tenacity and was willing to give their lives for a reality that they hadn't seen possible yet, how dare we sit on the sidelines right now
Mm.
while their work is being unraveled and gutted when they
Right.
had to do it without the resources and without the blueprint? We got the blueprint now. All we
We
have to
got it.
do is stay committed and get this shit done. And I refuse on our watch, on my watch, on your watch, on Tom's watch, or the people who's on this call watch, for
Yes.
history to say that when this shit went down, all we did was send a tweet.
Mm.
And I thank you because you're one of the most successful lawyers on the face of the planet Earth, and you are bold in this commitment for justice. A lot of times you see what they call the poor righteous teachers, those small rooms that people are talking about the work and trying to organize, but the people with the real power don't give a damn. Here you are representing some of the biggest artists in the world on one level, and then on the plane to DC to sit with the governor to get a bill signed. I mean, and it's that level of power, and you showing that I can be successful. I can create an economy for my family, make sure I have inheritance to leave my children,
Mm.
and still be righteous,
Yeah, we
and
got
still
work.
give a damn,
Yeah.
and
It
still use my
inspires
platform to
it
fight.
inspires me. You talk about inspiration. This is my passion. Being an activist is my passion. I mean, even when I was an artist, Prophet,
Mm.
there's videos out on
Oh
YouTube.
man, you
And
haven't seen no videos yet, y'all. If you go Google Dina LaPolt, if you don't see Dina LaPolt with the rock star here, with that guitar, with the fist in the air, this is why I said this is not a gimmick. There was a
mm,
lot of people that showed up in 2020. There was a lot of money
mm,
grabs. There was a lot of things that happened. But what also happened was the tribe was able to find themselves. We were able to find
mm.
each other
We
during
found
that
each
moment.
other. We
Will
found
the
each
real
other.
activists please stand up?
The real activist. Yes.
And can we give a
Yes.
shout out to the Music Artists Coalition and to the Artists' Rights Alliance? And we have a bunch of groups, but there's something that we
Yep.
share very special, and I thank all of you for that. The
Yep.
Music Artists Coalition, the Artists' Rights Alliance. We have a little
Sona, Songwriters in North
it's
America.
songwriters in North America.
Shout
We
out
have
Michelle Lewis, Kay
Michelle Lewis,
Handley.
the rock star, Aaron, the whole crew, Ron. But we have this little movement going, and people
Mm,
don't realize we on Zoom calls once a week. We on text every minute on the hour,
yeah.
getting shit done.
We're getting shit done.
So
Okay.
if you're on this call and you're not part of one of these organizations, get the hell off this
Get
call
on.
in the next 7 minutes and
That's
make
it.
sure you join. Songwriters of
That's
North
it.
America, Music Artists Coalition, the Black Music Action Coalition, the Artists' Rights Alliance.
This is it. Join one of our organizations because we are
Yes,
all connected. There's four of our organizations and we are lockstep on everything, industry wise.
yes.
Whether it's
And Tom,
fighting for Tom
no,
Truitt. Oh,
no, go ahead, Dean. I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Prophet.
No,
So
no. I'm sorry. I stopped you.
everything, we're aligned on social justice, women's
Yes,
rights, people's choice, everything, free speech. This is
that's
one of the
right.
reasons how we were able to get these bills passed. Today, you know what was crazy? Our bill, Prophet, the No Fakes Act, was a bipartisan, unanimous
Bipartisan bill.
vote. You know, people don't realize that intellectual property, which is copyright and music, trademark, okay, intellectual property is a Republican issue. It's a
Yes.
Republican issue. Okay, so even though we have they vote on things that we might not agree with on everything across the board. You and I are aligned on
Yeah,
that, okay?
yeah,
But intellectual property, they could
yes.
be our best friends,
Absolutely,
okay? And here we
absolutely.
go, getting this shit done, working
Getting shit
together.
done.
Yeah. So you
And
guys all join me.
Tom, we come to you too, Tom. You know, you said you hit me on Facebook 3 years ago. I know how I missed that message, but now that we connected, now that you brought the great Dina LaPolt to your platform, and she asked me to join us, now we got to stay connected. In the role that you in as a headhunter, there's so many talented women and black executives that have been pushed out this industry. So we need to work together, figure out how do we get these folks back employed? How do we get them on the entrepreneurial track? What can we do to bring finances and resources to these folks to help these
Yep.
talented people who built our industry still be able to sustain? So you're in a very critical role as a headhunter in the work that you're doing. So I want us to continue to work together on how we figure out ways to get people back to work and get their entrepreneurial spirits going and funded so we can build our own economy and not just wait for people to fix the shit.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I'm so happy that we did this. I'm so happy. And I know we have some questions in the chat. So, and I'm so glad everybody's on the chat. So, Prophet, you want to lead it off on one of the questions? Or Tom, do you? You have some questions in here? Because people are all over the country
Yeah,
chiming in.
here's one that is buried deep in the chat. Comes from Johan Larson, who wants to know, how do you balance national federal activism like the No Fakes Act with local regional activism, and how do those strategies differ?
Great question. So let me answer this from me, because Prophet will have his own opinion. But for me, I focus on the bigger picture. Okay. So, listen, there's a saying, when the plane is going down, you put your mask on yourself before you could put it on other people. I'm not so great with that. I put the mask on a lot of other people. So, like, if I focused on local activism, I'm sure my neighborhood would be a lot safer. There wouldn't be a lot of robberies. There wouldn't be all the shit that's happening, you know. But at the end of the day, I focus on the bigger picture. And when Prophet and I first got involved in the Restoring Artistic Protection Act, and we focused on the federal law, because that's where our relationships were in the beginning with members of Congress, Hank Johnson, Jamal Bowman, Maxine Waters. These were our relationships were. The Congressional Black Caucus, when Karen Bass was in Congress. So we focused on federal. Okay. And then once we got educated on it, where are the people being arrested? Where are they getting convicted of in prison? And we were educated that this is happening at the state level. A lot of this is at the state level. There's right now 805 black men in prison that were convicted solely on the use of their lyrics. Okay, this is not happening in any other genre of music. This does not happen in country music. Okay, it's not happening in rock music. This is happening in rap and hip hop. And once we got educated from being on this federal level to where we got to work on the states, because that's where people are getting arrested and that's where they're getting convicted. We started working at the state level, you know? So this is kind of how, you know, I'm built. And I'm sure, Prophet, you have an answer to that question. Your
No,
own.
no. Well, you answered it. It's strategy. It's strategy. I mean, we created the national conversation around this issue with the federal bill. That we went and started breaking it down in each of the states to ensure that we're able to take that momentum to move it to the state level. So it's about strategy. No matter what we're talking about, it has to be rooted in strategy. What is the plan? There's a book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of the habits is think with the end in mind first. What is the goal? What are we actually trying to achieve? Once we're clear about that, then we can work backwards to get there. A lot of times we just come out swinging with no real strategy because we're not really clear of the goal. So whether you work in national, whether you work in state, whether you work in federal, whether you work in, in your community level, it's all about having solid strategy, being clear where you're trying to go, and then find your tribe.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Well,
And I
guys,
love how our strategy with our groups, Music Artists Coalition, Black Music Action Coalition, Songwriters of North America, Artists Rights Alliance, we are a coalition. And when you and I flew into Maryland to have the bill passed, Ron Gubbets from the executive director of Music Artists Coalition was with us every step of the
Yeah,
way. Yeah,
absolutely.
incredible.
Yeah, no,
Incredible.
no. I love what we have going on. I encourage everybody to get involved with us. I promise you guys, is we might have done a lot of talking just now, but we are not just talking about it. We are really firm bent on action. That action aside, BMAC is a very key word. It's not just the definition of the A. It is really the energy and the spirit in which we move and we are building on action.
Mm. Yes, yes. Tom, thank you for having us. You
Oh,
really
Lord.
make an impact with this.
Listen, thank you. And one thing we didn't mention today, but guess what else is happening in Chicago right now, today?
Mm.
The
Oh,
And
the
opening of the
Obama.
Obama Center.
exactly.
Yes, the
And by the
Obama
way,
Center.
and shout out to our forever First Lady Michelle Obama. I
Yes,
just want to
ma'am.
say that.
Shout out to Michelle Obama, the classiest woman in the
Yeah.
United States is that woman, Michelle Obama. And I got to tell you, even on our Senate call today, on watching the judiciary pass the No Fakes Act, Senator Dick Durbin, shout out to Dick Durbin, he was, he was there in Detroit, he wasn't on the committee and gave his proxy to Senator Whitehouse because he was there with President Obama and Michelle Obama with this
Mhm.
opening today. So
Yeah.
shout out to him. The greatest president that ever lived is Barack Obama. By the way, let me tell you something. My kids, Buddy and Wilson, twin boys, will be able to tell everybody their entire life they were born when President Barack Obama was the president of the United States.
Right.
They
Right.
were born. That was their president.
Noah Creech, reach out to us. You have an idea? Reach out. Email me. Let's hear the idea. Let's figure out ways to build. Thank you guys.
Well,
Let's
listen,
go.
folks, we do need to wrap it up. First, let me just simply say thank you to you two for all the advocacy, all the activism, all the badassery. Um, Dina, you are just frankly amazing. And Prophet, wow, you are, you both are incredible. And I promised the audience today they would leave more inspired than they arrived. I guarantee you that is the case. So thanks for everything you're doing. Keep doing it. I think you got a bunch of new fans on here today. And just keep going, guys. Don't
Well,
lose the
follow
faith.
us. Continue to follow us. Follow BMAC on IG. Follow Profit on IG. Profit 5050. Profit 5050. Email us. Follow Dina LaPolt. Follow the Songwriters North America. Follow the Music Artists Coalition. Let's stay connected. Let this not just be a great hour of inspiration. Let this lead to some real action and some real work. You know.
Right on.
Let's do it.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
Have a
God
great
bless
day,
folks.
everyone.
everyone.
See you
Bye bye.
soon.